wake me up to another good morning, time to go.
Are you ready to explore God's wild and wonderful world? Welcome to the Nat Theo podcast. I'm your host, Erin Lynham. I'm a certified master naturalist, Bible teacher, and author, and I am so excited to dive into God's written word, the Bible, and His created world with you. We have something exciting today for you listeners. Today's lesson, including the trail map and trivia question, were sent in by one of our listeners, Peyton Sophia. One of my favorite things about hosting the Nat Theo podcast is hearing your kids' excitement for God's wild and wonderful world. It blesses me so much every time I receive a note or an email or you send in a question. Thank you for honoring your God-given curiosity and using that curiosity to point others to God's truth, love, and wonder. Today, we are learning all about a curious creature called the pufferfish. Here is Peyton to introduce our trail map.
Are you ready? My name is Peyton Breeze, and I'm 6 years old, and I have a trivia question about puffers and a trail map. These will make part of a lovely Nat Theo podcast. It's all about puffers. Here's our trail map. We are going to learn why puffers have spikes, how a puffer bloats up, and what puffers like to eat, and...
Did you have an idea about whether they're poisonous?
And are all puffers poisonous? And do all puffers have spikes? And do all puffers have the same length of spikes? And finally, how can we inflate our hearts full of God's love?
What a fun trail map, Peyton. Thank you. I'm so excited to dive into these questions. Before we hit the trail, let's thank our sponsors that made this lesson possible. Calling all adventurers. The Creation Museum's Family Adventure Days are here to make your spring unforgettable. My family and I will never forget our time at the Creation Museum and everything we discovered about God's wild and wonderful world through their amazing exhibits and wildlife encounters. Enjoy exclusive perks like free guided tours, interactive guidebooks, and scavenger hunt booklets, as well as discounts on planetarium shows and the thrilling Screaming Raptor zip lines. And guess what? Kids 10 and under are always free. Learn more and plan your visit at creationmuseum.org/family-days or at the link in our show notes. Join us at the Rocky Mountain Homeschool Conference in Denver, June 12th to the 14th. This family-friendly event features exciting creation science activities that bring science to life. And don't forget to stop by our Nature Museum booth at the conference. Come meet our live axolotls, see elk antlers up close, and pick up rocks, fossils, and shells. We would love to meet you there. Parents, you will find over 100 exhibitors with biblically based curriculum and resources to equip your homeschool journey. Don't miss the free bonus day on Wednesday, June 11th for families new to homeschooling or with unique learners. Register now at RockyMountainHomeschoolConference.com or at the link in our show notes. All right, it's time for our trivia question.
So, here is the trivia question. Which puffer has the biggest lips?
So, what pufferfish has the biggest lips? Now, we are going to make this one multiple choice. So, which of the following pufferfish do you think has the biggest lips? A, the dog-face pufferfish, B, the blue-spotted pufferfish, or C, the starry pufferfish? Take a guess and we will find out at the end of our lesson. And Nat Theo Club members, be sure to click over at the end of this episode to the bonus video to learn how pufferfish build sandcastles. You can find a link to that video in the show notes or in your Nat Theo Club dashboard. And listeners, if you would like access to our weekly bonus videos and lesson guides and nature devotions, you can access all of those through the Nat Theo Club. You can join at the link in our show notes. So first, are all pufferfish spiky? Peyton asked specifically about pufferfish spikes. So let's discover if all pufferfish are spiky and what those spikes are for. Now, before we learn about a pufferfish's spikes, we need to understand something very important. The pufferfish and the spiky porcupine fish are not the same creatures. Today, we are going to learn about two different creatures, the pufferfish and the spiky porcupine fish. Both pufferfish and spiky porcupine fish are in the same order, so in the same big category of animals. But once we go down to the smaller category called the family, they are in two separate families of fish. Pufferfish are a family of fish called Tetraodontidae. They are known for, well, puffing up, which we are going to learn about in a moment. Some of these pufferfish have short, prickly bumps that appear when they puff up, but they're not really spiky. Porcupine fish, on the other hand, are a family of fish called Diodontidae. Like pufferfish, they also puff up. But they also have long spikes that are visible even when they are not puffed up. These spikes point out when they do puff up. So, pufferfish and spiky porcupine fish are two different families of animals, but they are both designed to puff up. Let's now look at something unique about the porcupine fish, and that is its spikes. Why do porcupine fish have long spikes? God designed different kinds of fish with different ways of protecting themselves. Because if you're a fish in the ocean, there are a whole lot of things that want to eat you. Let's look at a few ways that God designed different fish to protect themselves. One is through camouflage. So some fish are designed to camouflage themselves or to blend into their surroundings. In this way, they are not easily seen by predators. Another way some fish can protect themselves is with venomous fins, or fins that can poison other creatures. The poisonous lionfish is a great example of this design. In the case of porcupine fish, its spikes are another design that protects them. Think about it this way. If you were very hungry and you saw a tasty-looking treat on the table and you reached out for it, but when you did, that tasty treat transformed into a spiky ball with sharp points all over it, would you still eat it? I don't imagine that you would. When the porcupine fish feels threatened, like it feels like something's about to attack or eat it, the fish can puff up its body, which gets all spiky, to make the predator think again about eating it. A porcupine fish's spikes are a type of scale, like the scales that cover fish, but these special scales are called spines. Now, most of the time, these special scales called spines lay flat against the porcupine fish's body. But when the porcupine fish feels threatened, it puffs up, which pushes those spikes out. Think about what happens when you inflate or blow air into a balloon. What happens to the balloon material? It stretches to fit the air inside. And the same is true for the porcupine fish. When the fish puffs up, its skin stretches, which causes the spine scales to stick out, making the fish look like a puffy, spiky ball. So a porcupine fish gets all spiky when it puffs up. And true pufferfish, without those long spikes, also puff up to make themselves more difficult to catch or eat. But how exactly do the pufferfish and the porcupine fish puff up? Do you remember we talked about the porcupine fish puffing up and its skin stretching like a balloon? Well, it is more similar to a water balloon than a balloon filled with air. Now, this makes sense because these fish cannot inflate themselves with air while they are underwater. So instead, they fill themselves up with water, like a water balloon. When the pufferfish feels threatened, it takes in a whole bunch of water through its mouth. Now, what I'm about to tell you is super cool. Are you listening closely? A pufferfish's stomach is normally pretty small, but inside, the stomach is all folded up. Have you ever inflated a raft or a tube to use in a pool or on the lake? When you pull that raft out of the original box from the store, it's folded up all nice and small. But as you inflate it with air, it starts to unfold and get all puffy. This is similar to a pufferfish's stomach. When the pufferfish takes in water, its stomach unfolds and becomes very large, allowing all of that water to fit inside. The fish's stomach is so full of water that its body parts are actually pushed to the side to make room for the now very large stomach. Peyton also asked what pufferfish eat. So when they are not filling their stomachs up with water to inflate themselves and puff up, what are they filling their stomachs with? What does a pufferfish eat? Most pufferfish eat algae and small invertebrates, so little creatures that don't have backbones, such as snails, worms, and brine shrimp. But some puffers can get quite large and will eat larger food, such as clams. Now, you might imagine that it's difficult to crack open a hard clam shell when you only have fins, no hands. But both pufferfish and porcupine fish are designed with large teeth that are fused together to create a beak-like structure. Pufferfish have 4 large teeth, 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom, while spiky porcupine fish just have 2 large teeth, 1 on the top and 1 on the bottom. They use those big teeth to crack open clam and mussel shells. We learned that one of the similarities between pufferfish and spiky porcupine fish is that both of them can puff up. But there is another similarity between these two fish families. Some species in both the pufferfish and porcupine fish families have a very poisonous toxin called tetrodotoxin, or TTX. This is a highly potent or strong neurotoxin, a toxin that attacks a person or creature's nervous system and has no known antidote. If you listened to Lesson 37 on poison dart frogs, you might remember that poison dart frogs are likely the most poisonous creatures on Earth. But second place goes to the pufferfish. Now, also, like poison dart frogs, it is believed that pufferfish do not create their own poison, but rather they get it from what they themselves eat, in this case, from bacteria on their food. While puffers are immune or safe from this toxin, it builds up in their bodies and can be deadly to a creature or a human that tries to eat the pufferfish. Not all puffers and porcupine fish have this toxin, but some do. And again, it is very dangerous and can be deadly. Now, it might surprise you then that some people do eat pufferfish, even the toxic ones. In fact, there is a meal eaten in Japan that is known as a delicacy, so like a very expensive, fancy meal. It is called fugu, and it is made from poisonous pufferfish. The chefs that prepare this meal have to be specially trained and even have a license to make this meal and to be able to remove the toxic parts from the pufferfish while preparing it. I don't think I would be willing to pay that high price on a risky meal. Today we learned all about the pufferfish and porcupine fish, including how they puff up. Did you know that sometimes we can be inflated or puffed up too? Now, I'm not talking about when you have a bit of gas after eating a certain food and maybe you get a bit bloated and tooty. No, I mean that our hearts or who we are inside can get puffed up and inflated. This happens when something called pride fills our hearts, like water filling a pufferfish's stomach and puffing them up. Now, in some cases, pride can be good. It's good to be proud of the creative and important work that God calls us to. But there is also a harmful kind of pride, like that poison building up in a pufferfish. This type of pride makes us think that we are better than others. The Bible warns against this type of pride. Philippians 2:3 says, "When you do things, do not let selfishness or pride be your guide. Instead, be humble and give more honor to others than to yourselves." Instead of being puffed up with pride, we should be filled up with God's love. Ephesians 3:19 says, "Christ's love is greater than anyone can ever know. But I pray that you will be able to know that love. Then you can be filled with the fullness of God." Listeners, this is my prayer for you, that you will be filled up with the fullness of God, and that like a pufferfish all puffed up, you will be filled with God's incredible love. All right, it's time to answer a question from one of our listeners. This listener question is made possible by the Kids Answers magazine by Answers in Genesis. You know, there are a lot of interesting nature and science magazines out there, but sadly, they don't connect nature back to our Creator God. That's why we love the Kids Answers magazine by Answers in Genesis. This magazine is perfect for curious kids like you, full of exciting stories, activities, and fascinating features about God's amazing creation. Parents, help your kids grow in faith with content that's fun, educational, and biblical. Subscribe now at getanswers.org/kids and enjoy 4 issues a year plus a free gift. Start building a strong foundation of faith rooted in wonder. Learn more and subscribe at the link in our show notes. Here is today's question.
Hello, my name is John. I am 12 years old and I live in Canada, and I would like to know, how do plants know when to grow towards the sunlight?
That is a great question, John. How do plants know when to grow toward the sunlight? This is also an interesting question because, in a way, plants don't really know anything. They are not designed with a brain like people and animals are. So if they cannot think about growing toward the sun, why do they do it? God designed plants to react and respond to the sunlight, even without thinking about it. This process is called phototropism, and here is how it works. Plants have tiny cells inside of them that sense light. When those cells sense light, they trigger the plant to create a hormone or chemical called auxin. This auxin hormone is very important for a plant's growth. In this case, it causes the plant cells on the shady side to grow longer, which then causes the plant to curve toward the direction of the sun. Now remember, the plant is not thinking about doing any of this. It's simply how God designed plants to react and to bend and grow toward the sun so that they can receive more sunlight and continue growing, which was God's plan all along. Thanks for the great question, John. Stay curious about God's wild and wonderful world. And listeners, if you have something in nature that you are curious about, you can submit your question at erinlynham.com/ask or at the link in our show notes. And Nat Theo Club members, be sure to click over at the end of this episode to the bonus video to learn how pufferfish build sandcastles. Find that bonus video in our show notes. Now it's time to answer Peyton's trivia question. Which pufferfish has the largest lips? Now we made this one multiple choice. So did you guess A, the dog-faced pufferfish, B, the blue-spotted pufferfish, or C, the starry pufferfish? The pufferfish that likely has the largest lips is C, the starry pufferfish. And that's because it is the largest saltwater pufferfish, and it grows to around 47 inches long. That's almost 4 feet long, or 1.2 meters. Now, I am not exactly sure how large its lips are, but since it is the largest puffer, I'm guessing it has pretty big lips. But don't go giving this big-lipped puffer a kiss, because it is one of those highly poisonous varieties. Now it's your turn to explore. Choose a fish that you want to learn about. Write down 3 questions of something you want to know about that fish. Check out books from the library, or better yet, go to see that fish. Maybe you can visit an aquarium or a pet store or an aquatic store. Find the answers to your curious questions as you keep learning about God's wild underwater world. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this lesson on pufferfish, please take a moment to share it with a friend and subscribe, rate, and review Nat Theo wherever you listen. Until next time, keep exploring God's wild and wonderful world.